Hello. I'm not sure what this video is going to be called, but sorry, wow, what a great start to this video. But I am going to pull up the uh, Wizard. Okay, so this book is Wizard Ultimate Profession Slots. Okay, so I'm going to do a little preamble of what I think the book is going to be about. Now, for this one specifically, full disclosure, at this point, I have read 100 chapters of it. So it sounds weird that I'm doing these in the reverse. Um, but I only just thought about this idea for doing it this way, um, like 10 minutes ago. So, yeah, well, okay, like 40 minutes ago because it was in the shower and then I just filmed a different video. And so, anyway, uh, but yeah, so what is this series that I'm doing here? For each book that I read, I'm going to do an analysis of just what I can glean from the title and from the blurb description. I don't really want to do comments because comments can always be fucking skewed one way or another, either glazing a book or making a book sound awful, and they never really pan out. So I'm not going to do comments, but uh, I'm going to try to do the analysis and kind of show like, okay, well, what do I look for in a book? And later, I don't know if there's going to be other book content. There probably will be, but yeah. So that's what I'm doing here. So, without any further ado, let me well, okay. Trying to think of the best way to pull this up. Um Also, full disclosure, for this novel, it is a translated novel, and I'll just say the translations tend to just float around in a bunch of random websites. So I'll just leave it at that. Um, it should be pretty easy to find a place to read it. Okay. Wizard. Oh my gosh. That's skill tree. Summoning. My skills can infinitely break through. There we go. Infinite profession. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Super unprofessional, but whatever. I'm just okay. So I have it pulled up here. So number one, from the title, Wizard, unlimited profession slots. Now, when I think about novels I want to read, number one, I love wizards or magicians or magic users. And I'm going to expand that out to basically anyone that uses some form of mana or magic. It's a manipulation of energy. That's what it is. In order to cast spells effectively. So at a baseline, if a book has the main character be some sort of spellcaster, I'm interested. So having wizard in the title, I'm like, great. Check number one. Based on the fact that it says unlimited profession slots, my first initial thoughts are like, okay, because the main character, it sounds like this main character is isekai'd, so most likely this is the like special little golden finger or skill thing that the main character gets for reincarnating that like sets him apart. So I'm like, cool, we got the 2 check marks. Now let's go into the actual description. I generally don't look at the, like, I see the front cover, but like the front cover almost never tells me anything. um, but I will say, like, it has the main character, I presume, I don't know, but I presume it has the main character kind of sitting on this throne with like angel wings behind him, and there's like magical circles behind the wings. Let's see, is there anything else? Yeah. So that's that. Um, it is a Chinese novel, which is fine. I don't even care like what kind of novel it is, or who wrote it. And in fact, usually the Eastern fantasy is more interesting because they go into the giant scale that a lot of Western fantasy kind of doesn't. Like, not saying that they don't, but sorry, the camera did the thing. So there's a certain way that the Eastern novels will kind of expand the story that I find really enjoyable. Um, and I can go into detail, but I think I'll save that for another video. But anyway, so okay. Let's see, what do we got here for the actual summary? In a world where everything is led by wizards, Ron, who transmigrates into a world and is struggling to fuse with the soul of the original body owner, has been taken to a black mist jungle where the guide sneers during the declaration. And then there's in quotes, "If the assessment is not passed within a year, I will personally dissect your brain." Just as he is in despair, a panel awakens in his mind. Ron Ralph, age 15, current profession, none. Current profession slots, 0 out of infinity. Okay. So, that's the synopsis. So I will say, the synopsis, because, so this was in my kind of sphere of knowing that this novel existed for a couple months. And I actually was like, I do not like where this is going, where this is starting out. Basically, it's like, something that I've found is there are a lot of wizard stories where wizards are fucking evil. Like, just inherently just evil. And what I mean by that is they're very I don't know if this is a Eastern novel kind of thing, but in cultivation novels there's a lot of like evil fucking shit that goes on where everyone is greedy, everyone is trying to get resources, everyone is trying to like there's like a lot of like you need to be deferential to the person with more power, the might makes right mentality, all of that. And this novel screams that right from the get-go, where it's like, instead of, going to a wizard school and getting like good teaching and getting help, it's like, you guys are all going to be trash if you don't pass, and then I'll dissect your brain. So I'm like, this, I don't know if I want to read this. But I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm interested enough in seeing what kind of wizard world exists in this novel. So my thoughts were like, okay, there's a number of ways that this could go. In the past, there have been novels I've read where wizards are depraved, evil, cruel individuals to, like, non-wizards. And then there's other kind of novels where they'll go, like, we don't even treat you as, like, the same being as us until you become a wizard. And so maybe they'll, like, do some nice things, but it's always with that, like, I'm trying to get something out of you, so I'm doing the nice thing just because it doesn't really cost me anything, and maybe I get some return. So that's kind of where my thoughts go, as, like, I think this is going to go down that route. Now, another thing that I mentioned last night, because I had been talking a little bit about, like, I had picked this as my next novel, and I did the explanation stuff. So if you watch that, then you'll already know. But certain things that I mentioned, like, for the profession slots, what is a profession? Because for me, from Western fantasy and, like, video games and all of that stuff, profession slots tend to be non-combat related, although sometimes they can be combat related. But I think of things like crafting, such as, like, alchemy or woodworking or enchanting, that kind of stuff. So my thought was, are the infinite profession slots actually profession slots? Or is profession slot class slots? So in Western / like, just video games in general, class slots are like wizard, warrior, druid, so on and so forth, knight, that kind of stuff. So those would be class slots. And then the profession slots would be more the secondary things that are more non-combat related. So if it's class slots, this ability is even more broken. Now, I don't know what the character gets from having unlimited class slots or profession slots, but my thought was, like, maybe he's in a world where profession and class slots are limited. So him having infinite means effectively he can be everything. And when you get a power like that, that tends to be really broken. Because most people are like, well, the balance for being a wizard is you're squishy. But if you have a warrior class or a tank class that you add on to it, suddenly you're not squishy and you're really powerful because you're both a warrior or a knight and you're a wizard. So that seems really broken. So that's kind of my initial thoughts on it. But yeah, I'm gonna do, so, I did read chapter 1 to 100. So right after this, I'm gonna do the next part, which is the 1 to 100. So if this sounds interesting to you, go look it up. I'm sure you'll be able to find it online. You're going to have to do a little digging, but I'm sure you'll find a place that you can read it. And again, it's Wizard : unlimited profession slots. So, and now I never know So they always put the author, at least in the sites that I use, they put the author underneath, and I never actually know if the author's name is translated right, or if it's just a pseudonym or whatever. But a cane sauce is ACANE space sauce. I'm like, okay, like that didn't translate very well. So I'm not really sure what the actual author's like pen name is or whatever, but or what it even means. So yeah. Um, so yeah. Oh, also, I forgot to mention before I finish. Another thing I look at when I'm going to actually read a novel is how many chapters does it have. So with a lot of these web novels, one chapter may only be like 3 or 4 pages. So if it's on these like web novel sites, I will watch for novels that have like 7 to 1,000 chapters minimum, 700 to 1,000 chapters minimum as the starting point, because I'm not sure if they're going to get deep into the plot if they're only a couple hundred chapters. And I'd rather beard or, just like binge watch 1,000 chapters in a couple days or a week, as opposed to reading it where I'm reading like 10 novels, one chapter at a time. And I usually just wait for the chapters to build up, and then I'll read it again. So that's another thing that I look for. Anyway, I'm going to go. If you're interested, I would suggest, because I'm going to get into spoilers in this next part, so I would suggest reading the first 100 chapters if you don't want spoilers. And if you think maybe this is an interesting book. Spoiler alert, I'm going to continue reading it. I don't necessarily think it's the best novel I've ever read, but I also don't think it's a bad novel. It's in that, like, it's like junk food. It's the junk food of novels, where, you'll just keep consuming it, and it's like, okay, it's fine. There's nothing, like, new or special so far. Now, that can change. That's why I'm going to continue reading it. But, yeah. So, anyway, that's all I have to say for this. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.